Hello everyone, and welcome back to My First Mon. It's Emerald Edition. I'm one of your hosts, Jack Martin, alongside the Pokemon Master, Christian Buckley.
Hello, Jack. It's been a minute. 2021 is here, and I cannot wait to do what we're about to talk about.
Yeah, man. We did Crystal in the fall, and I think we ended in October.
Mm-hmm.
And then life just sort of came at us, I suppose. I was finishing up grad school, and I was essentially like writing my capstone research thesis.
Mm-hmm.
And you were finishing up school, and you were also doing like a ton of JoyClick stuff.
Yes.
So yes, we were doing a lot of work, and we wanted to continue this show, and we finally are doing it with Emerald, and we're doing a lot quicker than we did with Crystal, so that's nice.
Yeah, no waiting a year and a half this time. This is a full-blown sequel a couple months after the fact, and what better way to celebrate Pokemon's 25th anniversary this year than kicking off a run of potentially the best Pokemon game.
Yes, and to talk about that, and for those that don't know, this is our Pokemon retrospective series, with this season focusing specifically on Pokemon Emerald. We did Blue and Crystal before. Each episode will focus on the lead up to and through a particular gym. It releases every Wednesday, and you can find it on podcast services like Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can also find the video version on YouTube. You can get involved with the show by submitting fan art to myfirstmon@gmail.com, or this season we're expanding it to Twitter, so you can tweet at JoyClicks with the hashtag myfirstmon just to make it easier. And if you do that, we will show your fan art on the show. Yeah, and it'll be really fun.
Yeah, we'll probably continue because we did doodles every week. So
we did, yes.
I like drawing Pokemon. It's fun.
It's fun. It's easy. A lot of times I trace mine. Maybe I'll start getting out of that habit and just, exposing my terrible artistry to the world.
All art is good art, Jack. All art is good art.
So they say. But you can also review and rate the show on Apple Podcasts. That will definitely help out the show a ton. You can subscribe to JoyClicks on YouTube. We are still very close to that 2,000 sub mark. We're getting closer and closer.
Like 18 away.
We're so close. We're so close. I feel like this show can put us over the top.
For sure, because what I love about this show the most... listen, I love all of the shows we produce here on this channel, But what I love about Pokemon, specifically My First Mon, is because everybody who likes Pokemon is nostalgic for it, and every Pokemon game is somebody's either first or favorite. And we have the wonderful hindsight of 23-year-old Jack Martin and his lifetime of playing games to look back at the Pokemon series for the first time. And I like talking to you about it because it makes me feel like I'm playing it for the first time again, even though I've played Emerald like 3 or 4 times, and I love this game dearly.
Yeah, we've had some people say that, which is a very, very nice and kind thing to hear. So we appreciate that. Speaking of which, you can give us any advice or corrections in the YouTube comments, and we will feature you in our trainer tips segment on the show. And finally, you can support us over on patreon.com/joyclicks. At the $1 level, you can name my Pokemon in my party, which would be really fun. There's a lot of interesting and maybe childish things you could come up with, and we will absolutely incorporate that into the naming of my Pokemon. And at the $5 level, you can get producer credit and be a Patreon producer for this show. So that is the show in a nutshell, essentially.
Now, as the Pokemon Master, which you refer to me too kindly as, I feel like it's...
Is that too much pressure?
Well, kind of. Like...
Okay. Someone's got to be the master, Christian, and I think it has to be you.
Sure, but like the love of Pokemon in my heart, I feel like is worthy of master status. Like the way... If you look at Anakin, it's like, he should have been a master, but like... His qualifications weren't all there, Like,
Anakin was robbed. What are you talking about?
He failed an apprentice. But anyway,
the whole Jedi Council failed an apprentice. Let's talk about it. Oh, she's flashing back there. So.
Before we move on to Gen 3, I do have to do a little housekeeping about Gen 2 because you and I have discussed this. Odds are the way we're going through the Pokemon series, revisiting Gen 2 won't happen for a while. So,
years, some would say.
Potentially, yeah, because think about it. If we're continuing this pace, we got Gen 4, which is my favorite. Gen 5, I haven't played. Gen 6, I haven't played. So those might be some interesting seasons. And then, like, by that point, there's going to be a whole new generation we'll be lined up for at some point. So, like, Gen 2 revisiting. Yeah.
Our first Mon? Question mark?
Ooh, potentially.
We'll get there.
So, like, Pokemon's Soul Silver and Heart Gold is, like, a ways out. So, I think it's only fair to the very loyal audience that we have that have been following your Pokemon journey so far to see your reaction and hear what you have to say and think about the big reveal at the end of Kanto in Gen 2.
Yeah, so to catch people up, we went through Johto, and then we finished in Kanto doing like the last fight or whatever. And I didn't go through the rest of the gyms. I think I did maybe one gym after that, but I didn't make it all the way through Kanto. So, and apparently there was a surprise that I did not get to. So
the surprise, remember you had all these theories about like, oh, is Silver actually like Ash or something? Or like, sorry, Johnny for you.
Yeah.
And you kept having all these theories because Gen 2, to my dismay, lives in the shadow of Gen 1. And furthering that, if you get through all of Kanto, there's a mountain that is sort of the natural division between Kanto and Johto. And it's called Mount Silver. At the top of Mount Silver, you go through this huge gauntlet, big cave system. You reach the peak. It's a very small, like 4x4 square on a Game Boy screen, looking out over both regions. And standing atop Mount Silver is Red, aka Jack.
Whoa.
From Pokemon Red and Blue. And you fight him, and his team is Charizard, Blastoise, Venusaur, a Pikachu, I forget the two others, but like, it's the quintessential, like, it's the Pokemon team. You know? And
wow, that's really cool.
It's basically it's supposed to be like you overcoming your past self. That's like how that works.
Is there any dialogue?
I don't think so, because he's a silent protagonist, so I think you walk up to him, it's just ...
Wow.
So.
That gives me some Ray approaching Luke on R2 vibes.
Yeah.
You know?
So yeah, that's the big reveal. I feel like, personally, Kanto being in the game is a bigger deal, but...
Yeah.
In terms of having a moment, I think it's a cool moment.
It's funny how the sort of speculation I had with Red being somehow involved with this game was there, but it was like misplaced in a way. Like, I didn't get to necessarily experience that in the way that I was expecting, because I thought Red was going to be Johnny, and I was like, wow, man, Pokemon's really telling an interesting story here, but no. The story was, of course, just kind of regular Pokemon fare, but so, that's cool. I like that addition of having him at the end.
I have his final two Pokemon. He has Snorlax, because of course, and Espeon, so an evolution, but for Gen 2. And just so the audience and you are aware, level 77, 77, 77, 75, 73, 81 for his team, so we were not going to be ready for that.
No, that would have taken some grinding, I think. But yeah, that's cool. Sorry for all the viewers out there who wanted to see that, but I think that would have taken a really long time. Yeah, but that's excellent. I do like that addition. So for this go around, Christian, do we want to sort of talk about, for this episode 0, do we want to talk about expectations for the game? Maybe how this game will differ from the previous two, if it will at all?
Sure, yeah. I think the main thing is I'm not going to be throwing shade at Emerald because I truly love Emerald. I think it's probably, like I've said, it might be the best one. I still think it's been a long time, but I think Platinum is still my favorite, and Emerald is the second favorite, but the best game.
Right.
So for you, when I say that, because I've said this to you a lot over the past couple of years, and I think you told me some of your friends who like Pokemon, Emerald is their favorite.
Yeah.
When you hear that, what are your expectations? Like, where does your mind go immediately when you hear all this praise for Emerald in this greatly celebrated series already?
So instantly, I think nostalgia.
Okay.
Because I think that's a huge point with Pokemon, and I think maybe this came out at a time where my friends in my age group, like, this was their first Pokemon. Because I was born in 97. When did this game come out? Like mid-2000s, 2005?
So...
Or I guess the first Gen 3. When did that come out?
So, Pokemon Emerald came out in 2004 in Japan, 2005 in America. Okay. Ruby and Sapphire, which are the red and blue of this game, right. Those released in 2002.
Okay. Yeah. So, I feel like this was the point where people in our age group were getting into Pokemon because at this point they were old enough to sort of experience video games, and this was probably the most accessible game. And what's that?
And read. You know, it's a lot of text.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I feel like that's a good point. I feel like a lot of kids our age grew up learning in some ways to read through video games, and I think Pokemon was probably a huge part in that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a lot of that comes from that, but also like this game seemingly probably stands out as one of the better Pokemon games because they did have that knowledge of like going through the subsequent Pokemon games and still looking back on this one as one of the best. But I do think nostalgia is pretty key.
Yeah, I think that's fair for sure. And another aspect of this, Pokemon Gen 3 is the first generation on hardware that is not the original Game Boy.
Game Boy Advance, right?
Yes, the GBA. So when you realize that, and you realize that Emerald, the GOATY version essentially, came out like a year before the DS came out, what are you thinking there? What do you think the advantages of a GBA will be for this game? If it's visuals, scope of the world, music, like where are you thinking about that?
Yeah, so with Crystal being on the same hardware as Blue, which is the one that I played through, we found, like, you and I both found, like, hey, this is really impressive for this being on the same, like, handheld as the original Pokemon, like, with the addition of color, and with the entirety of Kanto in that game, and just kind of, like, it being there at the very end was pretty impressive. But largely, it was similar, like, gameplay-wise and sort of appearance-wise, aside from color. I think the GBA, just like with any sort of like subsequent console iteration, will bring with it like pretty big improvements for the game. I don't know what that will look like. I think we'll probably get more detailed textures, and I think the Pokemon themselves will be more easily identifiable.
Absolutely.
Which is good, because I noticed, so I'm playing through Final Fantasy Remake right now, and I'm making a lot of comparisons to the Pokemon games I've played because, yeah, they're the only like JRPGs I've played, and Final Fantasy VII is a JRPG, and just like with the map design and especially with like the battles, because the original Final Fantasy VII, correct me if I'm wrong, was like turn-based.
Yeah, it was like a modified turn-based, but it's still menu-based like Pokemon is.
Right, so the remake is similar. It's more action-oriented, but like the action gets you to the turn-based combat, essentially. And I've noticed that the characters I run into that game, the enemies I run into, I can identify their weaknesses. Like, if I run into like a metal enemy, I'm like, I know I'm going to use lightning. I think it's obviously not going to be maybe to that extent, but I think maybe with Emerald it'll be similar, where I see a Pokemon that I've recognized because their appearance is more identifiable, and I'm going to be like, oh, I know I can use this Pokemon against this Pokemon to combat their weaknesses. So, yeah, maybe a little bit easier in that way.
Yeah, because you had a GBA, right?
Yeah, I'll pull it out for next episode, but I do have, I had a purple GBA.
So, the benefit of that also, like, Red and Blue came out on the original chunky brick Game Boy that was black and white.
Right.
Gold, Silver, and mostly Crystal, because Crystal was the big one, had the benefit of the Game Boy Color, which added a color palette. The Game Boy Advance has some of the most beautiful looking pixel art since in like games. Like they have really, really good looking games on the GBA that I think hold up incredibly well. Not even like nostalgia aside, I think most games on the most first party games in the GBA look better than most Super Nintendo games. I don't know if that's a hot take.
Wow.
But
interesting.
Listen, the iconic Super Nintendo games that came out early, some of them look a little dopey. Link to the Past,
Sure.
That's got some weird looks. But Emerald, I think, is a good-looking game, and they have the hindsight of having Ruby and Sapphire out there to make some tweaks. But the color palette, you got lots of colors. We get, like, multiple shades of green, Jack, not just one. Like,
wow.
There's a lot going on here, so I think that's a fair assumption, that having the advantage of new hardware will assist you in gameplay.
So, my question would be, how does Emerald compare to, since I'm missing out on these, how does it compare to Ruby and Sapphire?
Sure, good question. So I think similar to Crystal, the way that Gold and Silver we didn't play, it has the hindsight of the initial release of this generation being Ruby and Sapphire. It allows a bridging of the gap almost. So most of the Pokemon that were version exclusive in one or the other are all here. Mostly. There's a couple that like miss out because they still want you to trade. And usually more content. Like the third versions usually have a new area, maybe a new legendary, something to that effect. So some of that is post-game. We'll see how the weeks go, but I do think out of the first 3 generations, the post-game content in Emerald is the strongest. So we'll see if we want to bleed into post-game with this season, because I do think it's worth checking out and seeing how you feel. But compared to Ruby and Sapphire, which admittedly I didn't play from Gen 3, it continues the trend of like the definitive version of the 3rd generation is Pokemon Emerald. For like the big consensus, most people agree with that.
Yeah, so I'm not like missing out on anything, or Emerald isn't adding like any new like graphical additions that are like so, you know, profound. It's largely the same, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's really a difference. The player character in Ruby and Sapphire, they have, if Ruby they have a red headband, in Sapphire they have a blue one, Emerald they have a green one. So
cool. Reminds me of the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, that's a difference there. But for you, you've seen the box art, right?
Yep, I think you showed me it.
Yes. What's your read there? Because again, we're continuing the spirit of Pokemon games past Red and Blue. The box art legendary. What's your expectation with that guy?
Okay, I'm going to pull up the Emerald box art, and I'm going to tell you. Okay, so what I have here is a dragon/serpent looking thing. And it's Emerald. I guess that makes sense. Alright. So, I don't know what this thing is going to be called.
Okay.
I have no clue.
Do you have a guess?
Serpento.
Serpento, okay.
Yes, Serpento. Let's go with that. I have no clue. But I think maybe similar to like how we got in Crystal, we had like the it was like Suicune and all them. What were they?
They were the set of 3, the legend, like the roaming beasts.
Yes. So I think maybe we'll get like a dragon version of those.
Okay.
Like with multiple dragons in Emerald. I honestly don't know. I couldn't tell you.
All right. Fair enough. I'll ask this again because I've asked this in our prior 2 seasons. Story. What do you think the story is?
Now with 2 Pokemon games under my belt, I'm confident that every Pokemon story is the same. Like, I'm gonna hedge my bets that it's largely the same.
Okay.
So I'm not expecting anything crazy.
So the same being, you're a kid, you get a Pokemon, you do the gym challenge, there's an evil team, they want a legendary Pokemon. Is that your assumption?
Yeah, I think the structure is largely the same throughout the series.
Okay. If we're continuing on the trend of sameness, starters.
Yes.
One, do you know the starters of this generation? Because you didn't for the past two, except I think you knew Charizard. Do you know the starters for Gen 3 / do you have an assumption on their typing?
I don't know them. This is, as always, continuing from Crystal, the most exciting part about starting my first Mon over again is seeing who the starters are and making the decision. What's it going to be? I think, again, we're still going to get water, fire, grass.
Okay.
Unless that like deviates somehow like in the middle of the series and then the Pokemon company's just like, whoa, sorry, we'll go back. Because I know that with the recent gen, I believe like with Sobble and all of them were fire, water, and grass.
They were.
So I think that's consistent throughout. Again, unless like they made like this sweeping change and then the next generation they're like, oh, sorry about that. But yeah, I think that's what we're getting.
Okay. And I don't want to influence you at all, but if you are correct in your assumption, do you feel like you're wanting to experiment again? Do you think you want to like give everybody a shot? What are you thinking on that path?
Okay. So I have expressed an anti-grass type sentiment in Crystal and even in Blue. And I'm not going to say that's not going to continue, but I'll definitely be more open. I got to see what these characters look like. I want to see what these Pokemon look like.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big factor in deciding. The cuteness factor is quite large. And it was pretty hard for me to choose Cyndaquil over Totodile. Chikorita, like, come on. They did not bring their game with that one. Like, I think that's fair to say.
No, absolutely.
Sorry, Chikorita lovers. Yeah, go for it.
I'll say this. All three starters are good designs this generation.
Ooh, good to hear.
Yeah. So, I don't know if I have any other major questions for you, but if there's anything you want to throw out there before you start your journey, potentially today, as of recording this, what do you want to express to the world, the viewers, the trainers that are following along? Like anything we haven't touched on for you in this third adventure in the world of Pokemon?
Yeah, so my approach to Crystal was coming from Blue, taking the lessons I learned from that and just applying it to the gameplay and like my decisions throughout that game. And the biggest thing I did with Crystal was using like a more balanced party, and I think that will definitely continue for for Emerald. Now that I have 2 games that I've played in the Pokemon series, I think that'll largely continue through Emerald. I don't know if I'm going to change anything up too much. Okay. Maybe I'll use items more, but I almost never use items in video games. Like I've said, I'm playing Final Fantasy right now, and I just hoard items and just have like 1,000 potions by the end of the game. Just never use them. But yeah, maybe I'll try to do that more.
I remembered one last question. Because this was a big thing we talked about in the entirety of Crystal. How many new Pokemon?
Ooh, okay. We got 50 new Pokemon in Crystal?
No, I think it was 100.
Oh god.
But they count like if it's a 3-stage evolution, each one of them is a new one.
Okay. So that was what, doubling the total? Blue? How many in Blue? 100?
There's 151 if you count Mew, but Mew's unattainable, so it's 150.
Okay. So they added 100 more.
Yeah.
I think they'll probably do I want to go liberal or conservative with this bet? I want to say I'm going to say they're going to add 50.
50, okay.
Cuz then we get into like, are we talking about what you just said, like the tripling effect, where like you add one new Pokemon and it has like evolutions? I guess they count those. I'll go 75 then. Okay. I'll go 75.
Okay.
Because I don't know if they're gonna add 100 with each generation, because that'd be a lot. I'd be surprised.
Well, think about it. I think they passed 1,000 recently.
Oh, jeez.
Total. So,
yeah.
we'll see. So. But I'll say this too. I think because I know this was a big issue that we were both had with Gen 2, but like out the gate, there are new things almost everywhere.
Good.
And a lot of my favorites, personally, like a lot of my favorite Pokemon designs are from Gen 3. Like, I think across the board, Gen 3 has a specific vibe that feels different than Gen 1 and 2. Cool. Gen 1 and 2 kind of bleed together for me in terms of their designs, but I think what we have here is distinct. It does feel new, which I think is going to be really good for you. And, yeah, I'm ready to get going. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I think one of the bigger takeaways from running through Crystal was that it was largely the same.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a bad thing, but it didn't feel particularly unique. And the way you're describing Emerald and the way I've heard others describe the game has me excited.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm ready to go.
Let's do it. First episode next Wednesday.
That's right. First episode next Wednesday. So yeah, if you want to follow us on that journey, the show will release every Wednesday. Like we said, find it on podcast services like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and the video version on YouTube. Christian, you have anything else to add?
I don't think so. I'm ready to get rolling. No Master Ball mess ups this time, so don't worry about that.
That's right. Yeah, we know how to use Master Balls now.
We do,
or we'll just not use them at all. I probably won't.
Yeah.
If the people want to find you, Christian, where can they find you?
Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch at Chun2D2. It's a new at. That is CHUN2D2. So,
excellent. You can follow me on social media at FascinatedJack. I really appreciate the switch up to Chun2D2.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a big thing. I was like, I've been saying this forever. What if somebody finds the old show? I was like, you know, it's time. I gotta do it.
Yeah. Let the past die. Kill it if you have to.
Mm-hmm.
And until next time, we'll catch you later.